Okay, so I think we can all agree, even the most organized among us, sometimes that to-do list, oh, well, it just sits there.
It can be a little intimidating
It
sometimes.
really can. And that's why we are diving into Darius Foro's book, Do It Today.
Oh, a great choice.
It is.
Yeah.
This deep dive, it's all about helping all of us escape that procrastination trap and, start achieving our goals.
Well, and not just, getting things done, but making sure that we're actually focusing on the right things.
Exactly. Now, the book, it actually defines procrastination as that space between, wanting to do something and actually like doing
Right,
it.
that gap between intention and action.
Yeah. And, it can cost us a lot more than just a few wasted hours, right? Like, think about those all-nighters cramming for an exam.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you know that feeling, that stress, that sense of being totally overwhelmed. That's procrastination taking its toll.
And it's not just about time management either, right?
No, there's often a deeper reason for it. Psychologically, it can be tied to things like fear of failure, maybe even fear of success sometimes.
Well, the book actually says that. It says procrastination can like come from fear, like the fear of not being perfect.
Right. Our brains are trying to, protect us from anything that might be uncomfortable, even if it means we don't reach our goals.
It's almost like self-sabotage in a way.
You could say that, yeah.
So how do we like outsmart those instincts and actually start doing the things that really matter?
Well, the book talks about this idea of high-value tasks. These are the tasks that are really going to help you reach your long-term goals.
Those big picture things we really want to accomplish, right?
Dramatically. So, like, let's say you're trying to improve your English,
Yeah.
scrolling through social media in English. That might feel a little productive, but a high-value task would be, like actually having a conversation in English or maybe reading an English novel.
Right. So it's making sure that what we do every day actually takes us closer to where we want to be.
Yeah. It's about being intentional with your time and energy.
I've definitely been guilty of just, keeping busy instead of doing what actually
It's a
matters.
common trap, especially these days, right? So much vying for our attention. But the key is to figure out what those high-value tasks are and make them a priority.
And that's easier said than done because, sometimes those tasks feel so big.
Oh, yeah, they can be daunting.
So big and overwhelming that it's like easier to just not even start.
And that's where the book's advice about breaking things down really comes in handy.
Okay, so like instead of tackling a huge project all at once.
Right. Think of it, like building a staircase, one step at a time. Take that big project and break it down into smaller, more manageable steps.
So like, okay, let's say I have to write a 2,000-word essay. Instead of staring at a blank page, I could start with research,
Yeah, then create an outline.
then write the introduction and so on.
Exactly. And each step you finish, gives you a sense of accomplishment.
Which makes you want to keep going.
Exactly. It's like a positive feedback loop. But, what about those tasks that, even when we break them down, they're just, ugh,
Oh, I know. The ones we just keep putting off.
for those. Today
Yeah.
has this, well, it's kind of funny way to put it, but it says, eat that frog.
I know. I love that. Okay, before anyone gets any ideas, no actual frogs are involved.
No, it's a metaphor.
So explain the metaphor. What does eat that frog actually mean?
It means you do that one task that you're dreading, the one you keep putting off. You do it first thing in the morning.
So, okay, if my frog is that presentation I've been avoiding, I should, like, do that before I even check my email.
Exactly. Think of it like ripping off a Band-Aid.
Okay, I get it. Get it over with, and then the rest of the day feels easier.
And psychologically, it's a good idea because you get that feeling of accomplishment right away. It kind of motivates you for the rest of the day.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But what about those days where even that feels impossible? Like, what do you do when you just can't seem to get started with anything?
Well, even on those days, those days when you're just not feeling it, do it today. Have some ideas that might help.
Oh, good, because we all have those days.
Right. We all do. And it comes down to, well, the book calls it the power of habit.
Okay, so like creating routines.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about, creating daily habits that support your goals.
So, okay, so instead of aiming to like code for, I don't know, like 6 hours straight one day a week, I should try to code, say, like 30 minutes every single day.
Yeah, something like that. The book actually uses the example of an athlete training. You don't just like do one big workout and expect results,
Right.
right?
You have to be consistent.
Exactly. So like if you want to get in shape, you don't just like go to the gym once a week. You um, set a goal to exercise for maybe 20 minutes every day, something like that.
Okay, so consistency is key, even if some days it feels like you're not doing a lot.
Yeah, because it's about building that habit, making it automatic, like brushing your teeth.
And like over time, those little things really add up.
They really do.
Yeah.
But, let's be realistic. We're all busy, right? And there are distractions everywhere.
Oh, tell me about it. My phone is like a black hole
I
sometimes.
know what you mean.
Yeah.
And that's where the book talks about a distraction detox. It's about, creating a space where you can focus, a space that's free from all the things that distract you, all those notifications and things.
Okay, so any tips on how to do that? Because sometimes willpower just isn't enough.
Well, the book suggests a few things. You know, turning off those notifications,
Oh, good idea.
putting your phone on silent, or maybe even using like a website blocker if you have trouble staying off social media.
A website blocker. Now that's an idea I can get behind.
It's about taking control, right?
Mm-hmm.
Controlling your digital environment. And it's not just about our phones and computers either. It's about our physical space too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, like if your workspace is cluttered, that can be really distracting.
Exactly. Or if it's noisy, or I don't know, if you keep getting tempted by snacks in the kitchen.
Oh, that's me. I'm always wandering into the kitchen.
It's about figuring out what those distractions are and then, trying to minimize them as much as possible.
Yeah, I think that's key. But what about when the distraction is like in your own head, Like what about those times when your own thoughts are distracting you?
Yes, that internal chatter.
Yeah, exactly. Any advice for dealing with that?
Well, that's where mindfulness can be really helpful. Things like deep breathing or maybe even meditation, they can help quiet those racing thoughts.
It's like almost like hitting the reset button on your brain.
Yeah, exactly. Give yourself permission to just pause and breathe and refocus. But
Yeah.
okay, so let's see you've done all that right. You've minimized distractions, you've broken down your tasks, you've even eaten your frog. But what happens when you get stuck in the planning phase?
Oh, yeah, I know that feeling. You plan and plan and plan, but you never actually start doing anything.
It's a common trap.
Yeah.
And, do it today
Mm.
is pretty clear about this. Action is more important than planning.
So it's better to just get started, even if things aren't perfect.
Exactly. Done is better than perfect, right?
Mhm.
The book actually uses the example of starting a YouTube channel. You can spend weeks planning your content, but if you never hit record and upload that first video,
All that planning doesn't mean anything.
right, it's about taking that first step.
Yeah, I get it. You need to create that momentum.
Exactly. But, how do you do that? Especially when you're dealing with something that feels um, maybe a little daunting or risky.
That's a good question. Any ideas?
Well, one of the most powerful tools we have is something we all have a complicated relationship with: deadlines.
Oh, deadlines. I love them and I hate them.
I know, right? But Do It Today explains that deadlines can be really motivating. They create this sense of urgency.
Like, if you know you have to publish a blog post by a certain date, you're more likely to actually finish it, right?
Exactly. So, yeah, deadlines can be stressful, but they also help us get things done.
It's about using that pressure to your advantage.
Yeah. And the key is to set realistic deadlines. You don't want to set yourself up for failure.
Right. So start small and then gradually work your way up to bigger deadlines.
Exactly. And, don't be afraid to use tools to help you. Put those deadlines in your calendar, set reminders, or even find an accountability partner, someone to help you stay on track.
Oh, like a cheerleader for your goals.
Exactly. Someone to encourage you. Speaking of challenges, let's talk about something that, well, we all go through, but we don't always like to talk about it: failure.
Oh, yeah. Failure. It's part of life, right?
It is. And Do It Today actually has a whole chapter about it. It encourages us well, to reframe our relationship with failure.
Okay, so instead of being afraid of failing, we should try to see it as a learning experience.
Yeah, that's the idea. The book asks, what can I learn from this? And how can I do better next time? It's about changing your perspective.
So instead of I failed, it's I learned something.
Right. It reminds me of that Thomas Edison quote, the one about finding 10,000 ways that don't work.
Oh, yeah, I love that quote. And it's a good reminder that everyone fails, even, the most successful people in the world.
Absolutely. A lot of successful people say that their success comes from their willingness to fail,
Yeah.
to learn from their mistakes and keep going.
It's about resilience, right?
Exactly. And constantly trying to improve. But, sometimes all this talk about productivity and goals and stuff, it can be a little intense.
Yeah, I get that.
It's easy to get caught up in the hustle and forget about taking care of yourself.
Right, because you can't do anything if you're burnt out, right?
Exactly. And Do It Today actually talks about that too. It emphasizes the importance of self-care.
So, any tips on how to do that? Like, how do you take care of yourself when you're already so busy?
Well, the book frames it as, making choices that support your physical and mental health.
Yeah.
So things like getting enough sleep.
Sleep is so
It
important.
really is.
Yeah.
And eating healthy food.
Yeah. And taking breaks throughout the day to, just recharge.
Right. Sometimes the best thing you can do for your productivity is to like step away from your work and take a walk, something like that.
Yeah. It's about remembering that your well-being is important.
And it's the foundation for everything else. And actually, that's a perfect transition to the last part of our deep dive, where we'll talk about the key takeaways from Do It Today and leave you with something to think about.
Welcome back. We've covered a lot of ground today, huh?
We have from why we procrastinate to, how to actually get things done.
Do It Today is packed with great advice.
It really is.
Yeah.
What stood out to you the most?
I think for me, it was the emphasis on connecting your daily actions with your long-term goals.
Well, that's a good one.
It's so easy to get, sidetracked by all the little things and forget about the bigger picture.
That's why the book talks about, those high-value tasks.
Yeah, the things that actually move you closer to what you want to achieve.
And then, of course, there's the idea of, breaking those tasks down.
Right, into smaller steps so they don't feel so overwhelming.
Because when you feel overwhelmed, that's when you're more likely to procrastinate.
And it's about, consistency too.
Yeah, building those habits even when you don't feel like it.
And of course, we can't forget about self-care.
Right. You have to take care of yourself,
Right.
or you won't be able to do any of this.
So much good stuff in this book. So, for anyone listening who's ready to, actually start putting these ideas into practice, what's one thing they can do right now?
That's a good question. I think I would say start before you feel ready.
Oh, that's good advice.
Don't wait for the perfect moment or, for motivation to magically appear. Just start, even if it's not perfect, and let that momentum carry you forward.
I love that. Okay, so as we wrap things up, I want to leave everyone with something to think about.
Okay, fire away.
We talked about eating the frog, doing the hardest task first.
Right.
But what if you have a whole bunch of frogs? Like, what if everything feels important?
That's a tough one. When everything feels urgent, it's important to, go back to those long-term goals, those core values, and ask yourself, okay, which of these tasks is going to have the biggest impact?
It's about, making sure your actions are aligned with what you want to achieve, even when it feels like you're just taking small steps.
Exactly. And it's
Oh.
okay to, ask for help or delegate or even just say no to things that don't fit into your priorities.
That's so important. Okay, well, this has been such a great deep dive into Do It Today.
It really has.
We've talked about, practical tips, mindset shifts, and even the importance of self-care.
And all in the name of, conquering procrastination and achieving those goals.
Exactly. So remember, progress isn't always a straight line. You're going to have good days and bad days.
Be kind to yourself, celebrate those wins, and just keep learning,
Great advice. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you learned something new today and that you're feeling inspired to take action. Until next time, keep diving deep.